The stars looked cold and distant through the small window of the human ship. Commander Tejo stood on the bridge watching the empty space around them. His ship was small, only 20 meters long, with a crew of just 8 people. They were far from home, exploring the edge of human space. "Commander, we are picking up something strange," said So-Min from her pilot's seat. She was young, only 25, but she was the best pilot Tai-Ho had ever worked with. Her fingers moved quickly over the controls as she checked the readings again. "What kind of strange?" Tai-Ho asked, walking over to look at her screen. "Big ships, really big. They just appeared out of nowhere." So-Min's voice was worried. "I count at least 50 of them, and they are heading straight for us." Tai-Ho felt his stomach drop. Human ships could not just appear like that. These had to be alien ships, and if they were coming toward them, it probably meant trouble. He had heard stories about aliens, but humans had never actually met any before. "Can we run?" he asked. So-Min shook her head. "They are too fast, much faster than us. And Commander?" She paused, looking at the screen again. "These ships are huge. The smallest one is bigger than our biggest space station back home." The other crew members had stopped their work and were looking at the main screen. Everyone was quiet. They all knew what this meant. If these aliens wanted to hurt them, there was nothing they could do to stop it. "Send a message back to Earth," Tai-Ho ordered. "Tell them what we found. Tell them alien ships are real and they are very advanced." "Already done," said Jin-Ho from the communications station, "but it will take 3 months for the message to reach home." Tai-Ho nodded. At least Earth would know what happened to them, even if it was too late to help. The alien ships got closer. Tai-Ho could see them clearly now on the main screen. They were beautiful in a scary way. The ships looked like they were made of dark metal and glowing crystals. They moved through space like huge sea creatures, smooth and silent. "Incoming message," Jin-Ho said suddenly. "It's from the alien ships. Can you understand it?" "No, but the computer is trying to translate." Jin-Ho worked at his controls for a minute. "Got something. It says, 'Small ship, you will stop. You will not resist. We are taking you.'" Tai-Ho looked around at his crew. They were all looking at him, waiting for orders. These were good people. They had families back on Earth. They trusted him to keep them safe. "What? Are your orders, Commander?" So-Min asked quietly. Tai-Ho thought fast. They could try to fight, but their small ship had only basic weapons. They could try to run, but the alien ships were much faster. Or they could surrender and hope the aliens would let them live. "Cut the engines," he said finally. "Let them take us." "Sir." So-Min looked surprised. "We cannot fight them. We cannot run from them. But maybe we can learn about them. Someone needs to tell Earth what these aliens are like." Tai-Ho sat down in his command chair. "If we die here, no one back home will know what is coming." The alien ships surrounded them quickly. Up close, they were even more frightening. The smallest alien ship was 10 times bigger than Tai-Ho's ship. The largest one was like a floating city, covered in weapons and strange lights. A blue light shot out from one of the alien ships and wrapped around Tai-Ho's ship. He felt the ship being pulled toward the huge alien vessel. Through the window, he could see an opening in the alien ship's side, like a giant mouth getting ready to swallow them. "Stay calm," Tai-Ho told his crew. "Remember, we are explorers. This is what we came out here to do. We are the first humans to meet aliens. That makes us special." The ship was pulled inside the alien vessel. Everything went dark for a moment, then bright lights came on. Tai-Ho could see they were in a huge room inside the alien ship. The walls were covered in those same glowing crystals he had seen on the outside. "Air is coming in," reported Dong-Su from the engineering station. "The aliens are filling this room with air we can breathe." "That is good," Tai-Ho said. "It means they want us alive." A few minutes later, there was a loud bang on the ship's door. Then the door was torn open like it was made of paper. Tai-Ho got his first look at the aliens. They were tall, much taller than humans, at least 3 meters high. Their skin looked like dark green leather, and they had long arms with too many fingers. Their heads were shaped like triangles, with big yellow eyes and no nose. They wore armor that seemed to be made of the same crystals as their ships. The aliens moved into the ship quickly. They carried weapons that hummed with energy. One of them, who seemed to be the leader, looked around at the humans and made a sound like laughing. "Primitive," the leader said in perfect human language. "Very primitive. Look at this ship. Look at these creatures. They are barely more advanced than animals." Tae-ho stood up slowly, keeping his hands where the aliens could see them. "I am Commander Tae-ho of the Human Space Force. We come in peace." The alien leader looked at him like he was looking at a bug. "Human. Yes, we have heard of your kind. You live on one small planet and think you are important." The alien walked closer. "I am Fleet Commander Veltar of the Vorlax Empire. We rule this part of space now." "We did not know," Tae-ho said carefully. "We were just exploring. Exploring." Veltar made that laughing sound again. "You explore like children playing with toys. Your ship is so weak we could destroy it by accident." Other aliens were checking the human crew and the ship's equipment. They moved the humans together in one corner, pointing weapons at them to make sure they did not try anything. "What do you want with us?" Tae-ho asked. "You are specimens," Veltar said. "My scientists want to study primitive species. You will come with us." He looked at the other humans. "Most of you will die. We only need 1 or 2 for our research." Tae-ho felt anger rise in his chest, but he kept his face calm. These aliens thought humans were just animals. They had no idea what humans were really capable of. But maybe that was good. Maybe he could use that. "Please," he said, making his voice sound scared. "Do not hurt my crew. Take me, but let them go back to their families." Veltar looked amused. "Families? How touching. These creatures have emotions, just like the other primitive species we have found." He turned to his soldiers. "Kill the others. Take this one to the research station." "No!" Tae-ho shouted. But it was too late. The alien weapons fired and his crew fell down. But in the chaos, he saw So-min roll behind some equipment. Maybe she was still alive. Maybe she could escape. The aliens grabbed Tae-ho and dragged him out of his ship. As they took him away, he looked back and saw So-min moving quietly toward an escape pod. Good. Someone would make it home to warn Earth. Veltar walked beside him as they moved through the alien ship. "Do not look so sad, human. You should feel honored. You will help us learn about your species before we take your planet." Tae-ho said nothing, but inside his mind he was already planning. These aliens thought he was just a primitive animal. They thought humans were weak and stupid. They were about to learn how wrong they were, but first, he needed to stay alive. He needed to learn about them. And most importantly, he needed to find a way to warn his people about what was coming. The war between humans and aliens was about to begin. But the aliens did not know they had just made their first big mistake. They thought they had captured a helpless prisoner. They had actually captured a human soldier. Tae-ho woke up in a small room with white walls. His head hurt, and he felt sick. The last thing he remembered was being dragged through the alien ship. Now he was lying on a hard bed in what looked like a prison cell. The room was strange. Everything was too big for a human. The bed was made for someone much taller than him. The ceiling was high above his head. Even the door was twice as tall as it needed to be. He sat up slowly and looked around. There was a window in one wall, but it was too high for him to reach. Light came through it, but it was not the yellow light of Earth's sun. This light was blue and cold. "You are awake," said a voice. Tae-ho turned and saw an alien standing outside his cell. This one was different from the soldiers who had captured him. It was smaller and wore white clothes instead of armor. "I am Dr. Kethron. I will be studying you." Tae-ho did not answer. He had decided to act like a simple, scared prisoner. The aliens already thought humans were primitive. He would let them keep thinking that. "You do not need to be afraid, Doctor," Kethran said. "I will not hurt you. I only want to learn about your species." The alien made some notes on a small device. "Can you understand me when I speak?" Tae-ho nodded slowly, trying to look confused and frightened. Good. Your brain is more developed than I expected. Dr. Kethron seemed pleased. Tell me, what is your name? Teho, he said quietly. Teho. Interesting. Do all humans have such short names? When Teho did not answer, the alien continued. I have many questions about your kind. But first you must be hungry. I will bring you food. Dr. Kethron left, and Teho was alone again. He got up and walked around the small cell. The walls felt smooth and warm. There were no cracks or weak spots he could see. The door had no handle on the inside, but Teho was not looking for a way to escape yet. First, he needed to learn about these aliens. He needed to understand how their technology worked and what they were planning. Most importantly, he needed to find out if So-Min had escaped and if Earth knew about the alien threat. Dr. Kethron came back with a bowl of something that looked like soup. It smelled strange, but Teho was hungry enough to try it. The taste was not bad, just different from any food he knew. This food is made from plants that grow on many worlds, Dr. Kethron explained. It is safe for most species to eat. We have tested it on other primitive creatures like yourself. Teho wanted to ask about these other creatures, but he stayed quiet. He ate the soup slowly, pretending to be suspicious of it. Over the next few days, Dr. Kethron came to visit him many times. The alien asked him questions about Earth, about human culture, about how human bodies worked. Teho answered some questions and pretended not to understand others. He acted like a simple person who was scared and confused. But while he acted stupid, Teho was actually learning a lot. He learned that the Vorlax Empire controlled hundreds of star systems. He learned that they had been conquering other species for over 1,000 years. And most importantly, he learned that they were planning to attack Earth very soon. Your planet will be easy to take, Dr. Kethron said one day. We have studied the messages your people send through space. Your technology is very basic. Your weapons are primitive. Your ships are slow and weak. Teho made himself look sad and scared. Please do not hurt my people, he said. We will not kill all of them, Dr. Kethron said, like he was being kind. Humans will make good workers. You are strong enough to do hard jobs, but not smart enough to cause trouble. That night, alone in his cell, Teho felt angry. These aliens thought humans were just animals to be used as slaves. They had no idea what humans could do when they were threatened. But his anger also gave him hope. If the aliens thought humans were so primitive, they would not expect any real resistance. They would not be ready for a real fight. Weeks passed. Dr. Kethron brought Teho to different rooms for tests. The alien measured his body, tested his blood, and watched how he reacted to different things. Teho let the alien do these tests, but he was always watching and learning. He learned how to read some of the alien writing. He learned how their doors worked. He learned about their computers and their weapons. Most importantly, he learned about their communication systems. The Vorlax used something called quantum communication to talk between their ships. All their messages went through a central system on their home planet. If someone could damage that system, the entire Vorlax fleet would be cut off from each other. You are an interesting specimen, Dr. Kethron told him one day. Most primitive species become very sad when we capture them. Some even die from fear, but you seem to be adapting well. I just want to live, Teho said simply. Good. That shows intelligence. Perhaps humans are slightly more advanced than we first thought. Meanwhile, Teho hoped that So-Min had made it back to Earth. The escape pod from his ship had been damaged, but it might have been able to reach human space. If she was alive, she would warn Earth about the Vorlax invasion, but even if Earth knew, Teho was not sure they could stop the aliens. The Vorlax had thousands of ships, each more powerful than anything humans had ever built. Earth's space fleet was small and designed for exploration, not war. Unless Earth had some secret weapon they had never told him about, the human race was in serious trouble. One day, Dr. Kethron brought him to a new room. This one had large windows that looked out into space. Teho could see dozens of huge alien ships floating in the darkness. Beautiful, are they not? Dr. Kethron said. Each one carries enough firepower to destroy a planet, and this is just a small part of our fleet. Teho stared at the ships, acting amazed and frightened, but inside, He was counting them and studying their design. Every piece of information might be useful someday. "Where are we?" he asked. "This is Research Station Omega-7. We are still in your local space, not far from your home system." Dr. Kethran pointed to a star that looked brighter than the others. "That is your sun. In a few months, our invasion fleet will travel there and take your planet." "How many ships?" Tejo asked, trying to sound like he was just curious. "More than your primitive mind could count," Dr. Kethran said. "Enough to block out your sun." That night, Tejo lay on his bed and thought about everything he had learned. The Vorlax were incredibly powerful, but they were also overconfident. They thought humans were so weak that the invasion would be easy. Maybe that overconfidence could be used against them. He also thought about the quantum communication system. If someone could get to the Vorlax home planet and damage that system, it might give Earth a chance to fight back. But first, he needed to find a way to send a message to Earth. He needed to warn them about what was coming and tell them what he had learned about Vorlax technology. The problem was that he was just one human, trapped on an alien space station, surrounded by enemies who thought he was a harmless animal. But Tejo had been a soldier before he became an explorer. And soldiers knew how to fight even when the odds were against them. He started to make a plan. It would be dangerous, and he might not survive it. But if he could save Earth, it would be worth it. The aliens thought they had captured a helpless prisoner. They were about to learn that humans were much more dangerous than they looked. Dr. Kethran visited him the next morning, as usual. "You seem different today," the alien said. "More alert. Are you feeling well?" "I feel fine," Tejo said, giving the alien a simple smile. "I was just thinking about home." "Home," Dr. Kethran repeated. "You will never see it again, you know. But do not be sad. You are serving a greater purpose now. You are helping us understand your species." Tejo nodded like he understood. But inside, he was thinking about something else entirely. He was thinking about how to turn the hunters into the hunted. The war was coming, and Tejo was going to make sure humanity was ready for it. 8 months had passed since Tejo's capture. Dr. Kethran was excited about something new. He came to Tejo's cell early in the morning, moving faster than usual. "Today is special," the alien scientist said. "You are being moved to our home world. The Supreme Commander wants to see you himself." Tejo tried to look scared and confused. "Why does he want to see me?" "You are the first human we have captured alive. Our leader is curious about your species." Dr. Kethran made notes on his device. "This is a great honor for a primitive creature like you." The trip to the Vorlax homeworld took 3 days. Tejo was kept in a small room on the transport ship, but he could look out a tiny window. What he saw amazed him. The Vorlax controlled space like no one else. There were ships everywhere, moving in perfect formation. Space stations the size of cities floated between planets, and the planets themselves were covered in huge buildings that reached up toward the stars. "Impressive, is it not?" Dr. Kethran said, finding him at the window. "This is what a truly advanced civilization looks like. Your people still live in tiny buildings on one small world." Tejo nodded, acting like a simple person seeing wonders for the first time, but he was actually counting ships and studying their defenses. Everything he saw made it clear that the Vorlax Empire was much more powerful than Earth. But he also noticed something else. The Vorlax seemed to move their ships in very organized patterns. They followed rules and schedules. That meant their whole system probably depended on central control and communication. When they reached the Vorlax homeworld, Tejo was taken to another research facility. This one was much bigger than the space station. It was built into the side of a mountain, with hundreds of levels going deep underground. His new cell was larger, but still made for someone much taller than a human. There was still a window, but now he could see the alien city outside. Buildings stretched as far as he could see, all made of the same dark metal and glowing crystals as their ships. "Welcome to Vorlax Prime," Dr. Kethran said. "The center of our empire. From here we control 300 star systems and 47 different species." 47? Tejo asked, trying to sound amazed rather than worried. "Yes, and soon humans will be number 48. The alien scientist seemed proud. "Each species has found their place in our empire. Some are workers, some are soldiers, some provide food. We will find the right job for humans too. That night, Tae-ho met another human for the first time since his capture. A woman was brought to the cell next to his. She looked tired and thin, like she had been a prisoner for a long time. "My name is Hyejin," she whispered through the wall between their cells. "I have been here for 5 years." 5 years. Tae-ho was shocked. "How are you still alive?" "I am useful to them. I learned their language quickly. I help translate when they capture other humans." Her voice was full of sadness. "They have been taking humans for years, just a few at a time. No one on Earth knows." Tae-ho felt sick. The aliens had been kidnapping humans while Earth thought they were alone in the universe. "How many of us are here?" he asked quietly. "Not many. Most humans die quickly. The aliens do not care if we live or die." Hyejin was quiet for a moment. "Why are you here? Are you important somehow?" Tae-ho thought carefully before answering. He could not tell her the truth about his mission. "I was exploring space when they captured my ship." "An explorer," she said. "That explains why you are still alive. They like to study new specimens." Over the next few weeks, Tae-ho learned more about the Vorlax from Hyejin. She told him about their history, their technology, and their plans. But most importantly, she told him about their weakness. "Everything they do goes through the Central Command," she explained. "All their ships, all their planets, all their armies, they all get orders from the big computer system here on this world." "What happens if that system stops working?" Tae-ho asked. "I do not know, but I think their whole empire would be confused. They are not used to thinking for themselves." This was exactly what Tae-ho needed to know. If he could find a way to damage or destroy the Central Command system, it might give Earth a chance to fight back. But first, he needed to get access to their computer systems. And that meant getting out of his cell. His chance came when Dr. Kethron brought him to meet the Supreme Commander. Tae-ho was taken through many levels of the research facility, past rooms full of alien technology he had never seen before. The Supreme Commander was named Zalthek, and he was larger than the other Vorlax. His armor was covered in bright crystals that showed his high rank. He studied Tae-ho like he was looking at an interesting bug. "So this is a human," Zalthek said. His voice was deep and scary, smaller than I expected. "Are they all this weak?" "Most of them, yes," Dr. Kethron replied. "But this one shows more intelligence than the others we have captured." "Intelligence?" The Supreme Commander laughed. "It can barely understand our language. How intelligent can it be?" Tae-ho kept his face blank, pretending he did not understand most of what they were saying. But he was listening to every word. "Tell me, human," Zalthek said, speaking more slowly. "How many ships does your people have?" Tae-ho pretended to think. Hard. "Not many, maybe 100. He actually knew Earth had over 300 ships, but he wanted the aliens to think humans were weaker than they really were. 100 ships, Zalthek repeated, amused. "We have more ships in this system alone. Your people will surrender quickly when they see our fleet." "When will you attack my world?" Tae-ho asked, trying to sound scared. "Soon. Very soon. The Supreme." Commander turned to Dr. Kethron. "How long until the invasion fleet is ready?" 3 months, Supreme Commander. Maybe less. 3 months. That was not much time. Tae-ho needed to find a way to warn Earth quickly. After the meeting, Dr. Kethron took him to a new room for more tests. This room had several computer terminals along the walls. While the alien scientist was preparing his equipment, Tae-ho moved, closer to one of the terminals. "Do not touch that," Dr. Kethron said sharply. "Sorry," Tae-ho said, pulling his hand back. "I was just curious. The lights are pretty." Dr. Kethron relaxed. "Of course. Primitive minds are always attracted to bright objects, but these machines are far too complex for you to understand." Tae-ho nodded and stepped away from the terminal. But he had seen enough. The screen had shown a map of local space, with Earth, clearly marked. And more importantly, he had seen how to activate the terminal. Over the next few days, Dr. Kethron brought him to the same room several times. Each time, Tae-ho acted a little more curious about the computers. He would reach toward them and then pull back when the alien told him not to touch. "You really like these machines," Dr. Kethran observed. Perhaps your species has some potential for learning after all. They make nice sounds, Tejo said simply, and the colors are beautiful. Dr. Kethran seemed amused by this. Very well, you may look at the screens, but do not touch the controls. That was exactly what Tejo had been hoping for. While Dr. Kethran worked on other things, Tejo studied the computer interfaces. He learned how their systems worked, how they stored information, and most importantly, how they communicated with other parts of the Empire. The Vorlax quantum communication network was even more important than he had thought. Every ship, every planet, every military base was connected to the central system here on Vorlax Prime. Orders went out from here to the entire Empire, and reports came back the same way. If someone could take control of that system, they could see everything the Vorlax were doing. They could read their military plans, track their ships, and maybe even send false orders to their fleets. But the system was heavily protected. It would take someone with advanced computer skills to break into it, and it would take someone who could get close to the central computers without being caught. Tejo was just a simple human prisoner, as far as the aliens knew. They would never suspect him of being capable of something so complex. That was exactly what he was counting on. Late at night, alone in his cell, Tejo began planning his next move. He needed to get closer to the central computer system. He needed to find a way to access it without the aliens knowing. And he needed to send a message to Earth that would help them prepare for what was coming. Through the wall, he could hear Hyejin crying softly. She had been a prisoner for 5 years, watching her people being studied like animals. She had given up hope of ever seeing Earth again. But Tejo had not given up. He was going to find a way to turn this situation around. The aliens thought they were studying a primitive human. They had no idea they were actually teaching a soldier how to destroy their empire. The next morning, Dr. Kethran came to his cell with exciting news. Today, you will see something very special, the alien said. We are going to show you the Central Command Center. The Supreme Commander wants to see how a primitive mind reacts to our most advanced technology. Tejo tried to look confused and frightened. But inside, he was thinking one thing. Finally, it was time to begin the real mission. The Central Command Center was the most amazing thing Tejo had ever seen. The room was huge, with a ceiling that disappeared into darkness high above. Hundreds of Vorlax workers sat at computer stations, their hands moving over controls that glowed with soft light. In the center of the room was a massive holographic display showing the entire Vorlax Empire. Thousands of stars connected by glowing lines, with ships moving between them like tiny dots of light. Tejo could see Earth marked as a small red dot at the edge of the display. Magnificent, is it not? Dr. Kethran said, watching Tejo's reaction. From this room, we control everything. Every ship, every planet, every army in our empire receives orders from here. Tejo stared at the display, acting amazed and frightened. But he was actually memorizing everything he saw. Ship positions, supply routes, communication frequencies, all of it would be useful information for Earth. Supreme Commander Zalthek approached them. What does the primitive think of our command center? It seems overwhelmed, Dr. Kethran replied. Look at its expression. It cannot comprehend what it is seeing. Tejo let his mouth hang open a little and made his eyes wide, like someone who had never seen advanced technology before. The aliens seemed satisfied with his reaction. Show it the invasion planning system, Zalthek ordered. Dr. Kethran led Tejo to a smaller display that showed human space in detail. Earth was surrounded by red markers showing where Vorlax ships would attack from. In 2 months, we will begin the invasion of your home system, Dr. Kethran explained, speaking slowly like he was talking to a child. We will use 12,000 ships. Your people will have no chance to resist. 12,000 ships. Tejo tried not to show any reaction, but inside he was horrified. Earth's entire space fleet had only 300 ships. Even if they fought perfectly, they could not win against odds like that. But as he studied the invasion plan, he noticed something interesting. All those ships would be coordinated from this command center. If something happened to disrupt the communications, the Vorlax fleet would be confused and disorganized. What happens if your communication system stops working? Tejo asked, trying to sound like he was just curious. Dr. Kethran laughed. That is impossible. Our quantum communication network is the most advanced technology in the galaxy. Nothing can stop it. But what if it did stop? Tejo pressed. Then our ships would have to act on their own, without central coordination. Dr. Kethran seemed amused by the question. But as I said, that cannot happen. The system is protected by the most advanced security in the Empire. That night, back in his cell, Tejo thought about what he had seen. The Vorlax were incredibly powerful, but they had made their entire empire dependent on one central system. If that system could be destroyed, their advantage would disappear. But how could one human prisoner destroy something so heavily guarded? We're gone a long time today, Heejin whispered from the next cell. They showed me their command center, Tejo replied quietly. The Central Command? They do not usually show that to prisoners. Her voice sounded worried. What did they want? I think they just wanted to see me react to their technology. Tejo paused. Haye Jin, how well do you know their computer systems? Better than they think, she said. I have been watching and learning for 5 years. Why do you ask? Just curious. But Tejo was thinking. Maybe Haye Jin was more than just another prisoner. Maybe she could help him. The next few days passed normally. Dr. Kethran continued his tests, and Tejo continued to act like a simple, frightened human. But he was also paying attention to everything around him. Guard schedules, security procedures, computer access codes. One evening, something unexpected happened. Haye Jin was brought to his cell instead of her own. Dr. Kethran wants you to spend time with another of your species, the guard explained. He is studying human social behavior. When they were alone, Haye Jin looked at Tejo carefully. You are not what you seem, she said quietly. What do you mean? I have been watching you. The way you move, the way you think. You are not just an explorer. She sat down across from him. You are military, are you not? Tejo studied her face. Could he trust her? He had been alone for so long, and he needed help to complete his mission. What makes you think that? He asked carefully. The way you observe everything, the questions you ask? I know, because I am military too. She smiled for the first time since he had met her. Lieutenant Commander Jiwoo, Earth Defense Intelligence. My real name is not Haye Jin. Tejo felt a rush of relief and hope. Commander Tejo, Space Force. How long have you been undercover? 5 years. I was sent to investigate reports of missing ships near the edge of human space. Jiwoo's expression became serious. I found the Vorlax, but my ship was captured before I could report back. I have been pretending to be a broken prisoner ever since, gathering intelligence. What have you learned? Everything. Their military structure, their technology, their plans. But I could never find a way to get the information back to Earth. She looked at him hopefully. Until now. 2 of us might be able to do what one could not. Over the next hour, Jiwoo told him everything she had learned. The Vorlax Empire was even larger than Tejo had thought. They controlled most of this part of the galaxy, and they were planning to expand further. But she also confirmed what he had suspected about their weakness. Their entire empire depends on the quantum communication network, she explained. If we could destroy the central transmitter, every Vorlax ship and base would be cut off from command. They would not know what to do. Where is the central transmitter? 3 levels below us, in the most secure part of the facility. It is guarded by their best soldiers and protected by force fields. Jiwoo shook her head. I have been planning how to reach it for years, but it is impossible. Nothing is impossible, Tejo said. We just need the right plan. They spent the rest of the night working out details. The central transmitter was heavily guarded, but it was also essential to the Vorlax operations. If it stopped working even for a few hours, it would cause massive confusion throughout their empire. More importantly, if they could access the transmitter, they might be able to send a message to Earth. A message that could help humanity prepare for the invasion. There is one problem, Jiwoo said. Even if we destroy the transmitter, we probably will not survive. The entire facility will be locked down, and they will hunt us. I know, Tejo replied. But if we can warn Earth and disrupt their invasion plans, it will be worth it. Jiwoo nodded. When do we try? Tomorrow night. The guard shifts change at midnight, and there is a 10-minute window when the lower levels are less protected. The next day passed slowly. Dr. Kethron brought Taiho for more tests, but Taiho could barely concentrate. He kept thinking about the mission ahead. You seem distracted today, the alien scientist observed. Are you feeling unwell? I'm worried about my friend, Taiho said. Will you hurt her? The female? No. She is useful for translation work. As long as she behaves, she will live. Dr. Kethron made notes on his device. You show concern for others of your species. This is an interesting behavioral trait. That evening, Jiwoo was brought to his cell again. The guards thought they were just studying human social interaction. They had no idea the two humans were planning to strike. At the heart of the Vorlax Empire. Are you ready? Jiwoo whispered. Yes. You? I have been ready for 5 years. At midnight, they put their plan into action. Jiwoo had learned how to open the cell doors by watching the guards for years. The locks were electronic, but they had a manual override that could be activated from inside. They slipped out of their cells and made their way through the darkened corridors. Jiwoo knew the facility layout perfectly after 5 years of captivity. She led them through maintenance tunnels and service passages, avoiding the main hallways where guards might patrol. The hardest part was getting to the lower levels. They had to sneak past 2 guard posts and disable several security sensors. But Jiwoo had been planning this for years, and she knew exactly how to do it. Finally, they reached the central transmitter room. It was exactly as Jiwoo had described. A massive chamber filled with quantum communication equipment, protected by force fields and guarded by elite Vorlax soldiers. How do we get past the guards? Taiho whispered. We do not. We go around them. Jiwoo led him to a maintenance shaft that ran directly above the transmitter chamber. I discovered this passage 2 years ago. It leads right to the main control system. They crawled through the narrow shaft until they were directly above the quantum transmitter. Below them, they could see the massive machine that controlled communication for the entire Vorlax Empire. If we can access the control system, we can do 2 things, Jiwoo explained quietly. First, we can send a message to Earth warning them about the invasion. Second, we can program the transmitter to overload and destroy itself. Will the message reach Earth in time? Quantum communication is instantaneous. If we can send it, Earth will receive it immediately. Taiho looked down at the machine that had enslaved 47 different species. In a few minutes, he would either save humanity or die trying. Let's do it, he said. They began their descent toward the heart of the Vorlax Empire. The alarm started screaming just as Taiho finished sending the message to Earth. Red lights flashed throughout the facility, and he could hear Vorlax soldiers running through the corridors above them. Did it work? Jiwoo asked, her fingers flying over the alien controls as she tried to overload the transmitter. The message got through, Taiho confirmed, watching the display. Earth Defense Command has the invasion plans, the ship positions, everything. Good. Now let's make sure these aliens cannot coordinate their attack. Jiwoo entered the final commands, and the quantum transmitter began to shake violently. The overload will destroy this entire section in 3 minutes. They had done it. The heart of the Vorlax communication network was about to be destroyed, but they both knew they would not escape alive. The access shaft is blocked, Taiho reported, looking up. They have found our entry point. Then we go out fighting, Jiwoo said calmly. She had found a Vorlax weapon and was checking its power levels. At least we completed the mission. The door to the transmitter chamber exploded inward. Vorlax soldiers poured through, their weapons raised. Behind them came Dr. Kethron and Supreme Commander Zalthek, both looking furious. The primitive creatures have caused significant damage, Dr. Kethron reported. They somehow accessed our most secure systems. Impossible, Zalthek growled. These are simple animals. They could not understand our technology. Jiwoo stepped forward, no longer pretending to be a scared prisoner. We understood enough to destroy your communication network and warn our people about your invasion plans. The Supreme Commander stared at her in shock. You speak our language perfectly. You have been deceiving us. For 5 years, Jiwoo said proudly. Lieutenant Commander Jiwoo, Earth Defense Intelligence, and this is Commander Tae-ho, Space Force. We are not your specimens. We are soldiers." Zalthek's eyes blazed with fury. "Kill them both, but slowly. I want them to suffer for this insult." The Vorlax soldiers raised their weapons, but before they could fire, the quantum transmitter exploded. The overload Jiwoo had programmed sent massive energy surges through the entire facility. Lights went out, systems failed, and in the confusion, Tae-ho heard Jiwoo cry out. When the emergency lighting came back on, she was lying on the floor, hit by debris from the explosion. Tae-ho tried to reach her, but the Vorlax soldiers grabbed him. "Jiwoo!" he shouted. She looked at him with dying eyes. "Tell Earth. Tell them humans do not surrender easily," she whispered. Then she was gone. Tae-ho felt rage build inside him, but he forced himself to stay calm. Jiwoo had sacrificed herself to complete their mission. He would not let her death be meaningless. "Put this one in the deepest cell we have," Zalthek ordered. "I want him to live long enough to see his species enslaved." "Supreme Commander," Dr. Kethron said nervously, "the communication network is completely destroyed. It will take months to rebuild." "Then rebuild it," Zalthek roared, "and launch the invasion immediately. Do not wait for the new network. We will coordinate the old way, with messenger ships." But Tae-ho knew the damage was done. Without their instant communication system, the Vorlax fleet would be confused and disorganized. Earth would have a fighting chance. They dragged him to a cell deep underground, far from any other prisoners. As the door sealed shut, Tae-ho allowed himself a small smile. The aliens thought they were punishing him, but they had actually given him exactly what he needed: time. Because what the Vorlax did not know was that the message Jiwoo and Tae-ho had sent to Earth contained more than just invasion plans. Also contained the activation codes for humanity's most secret project. Far away, in the dark space between stars, something ancient was waking up. The UHS Eternal Vigil had been drifting in the cold emptiness for over 200 years. It was Earth's ultimate weapon, built in secret and launched before the first contact with aliens. The ship was designed for one purpose: to wait until humanity needed it most, then strike back at any threat to human civilization. The ship's artificial intelligence, Aria-7, had been sleeping for centuries. But now, as the quantum message from Tae-ho reached its receivers, the AI began to wake up. "Message received," Aria-7 announced to the empty command center. "Activation code confirmed. Threat assessment, maximum. Beginning approach to target coordinates." The Eternal Vigil was not just a ship. It was a massive construction platform that had been building itself for 2 centuries. Automated mining drones had collected materials from asteroids and dead planets. Factory systems had turned those materials into weapons, armor, and additional ship components. What had started as a single warship was now a floating city, bristling with weapons that human science had only dreamed of when the project began. And all of it was controlled by an AI that had spent 200 years learning, growing, and preparing for this moment. Meanwhile, the Vorlax invasion of human space began exactly as planned. 12,000 ships jumped into the Sol system, expecting to find a small, primitive fleet that would surrender quickly. Instead, they found empty space. "Where are the human ships?" demanded Fleet Admiral Velnara, the current commander of the invasion force. She was the granddaughter of the Veltar who had first captured Tae-ho, and she had grown up hearing stories of weak, primitive humans. "Scanning, Admiral," reported her sensor operator. "I detect no ships around the 3rd planet. No orbital defenses. No resistance at all." "Scan the other planets," Velnara ordered. "They must be hiding somewhere," but the scans revealed the same thing everywhere. The human home system was completely empty, not just of ships, but of people. Every planet, every space station, every orbital facility was abandoned. "Where did they go?" Velnara asked, confused. "On Vorlax Prime, Supreme Commander." Zalthek was asking the same question. Without their quantum communication network, he was getting reports from the invasion fleet slowly, through messenger ships, and the reports made no sense. "The humans have vanished," the messenger reported. "The entire system appears to be evacuated." "Evacuated? Where could an entire species go?" Zalthek turned to Dr. Kethron. "Could they have known about our invasion?" Dr. Kethron thought about the two human prisoners who had destroyed their communication system. It is possible they sent a warning, but how could humans evacuate billions of people so quickly? What they did not know was that humanity had been preparing for this possibility for decades. Secret colonies had been established in distant galaxies. Entire populations had been relocated using advanced transportation technology that the Vorlax had never seen. Earth was empty, but humanity lived on in places the aliens could never find. The Vorlax spent months searching for the missing humans. They found abandoned cities, empty ships, and no trace of where billions of people had gone. The invasion that was supposed to take days dragged on for years. And in his cell deep underground, Tae-ho waited. He had been forgotten by most of the Vorlax. The facility guards brought him food and water, but no one questioned him anymore. Dr. Kethran had been reassigned to other projects. Supreme Commander Zalthek was too busy trying to manage an empire that was slowly falling apart without its communication network. Years turned into decades. The Vorlax grew frustrated with their failure to find the humans. Some of their subject species began to rebel, sensing weakness in their masters. The empire that had once seemed invincible was starting to crack. Tae-ho grew old in his cell, but he never lost hope. He knew that somewhere in the darkness of space, the eternal vigil was coming. Area 7 would wait as long as necessary, building strength and preparing for the perfect moment to strike. 50 years passed, then 100, then 200. The Vorlax Empire changed. New leaders took power, and the old stories about humans became legends. Most aliens believed that humans had simply died out, unable to survive without their home planet. But a few Vorlax scientists kept Tae-ho alive, studying him as a relic of an extinct species. They kept him in suspended animation most of the time, waking him up occasionally to run tests. During one of these awakenings, over 300 years after his capture, Tae-ho overheard two young Vorlax scientists talking. "Why do we keep this ancient creature alive?" one asked. "Historical research," the other replied. "It is the last surviving member of a species called humans. They were supposedly intelligent, but they vanished when our ancestors first contacted them." "Intelligent?" The first scientist laughed. "Look at it. It is barely more than an animal." Tae-ho said nothing, but inside he smiled. The Vorlax had no idea what was coming for them. In the deep darkness between galaxies, the UHS Eternal Vigil had grown into something incredible. The ship now stretched for hundreds of kilometers, its hull bristling with weapons that could destroy planets. Its AI had evolved beyond anything human scientists had imagined, but it still remembered its prime directive: protect humanity. Area 7 had been patient for over 3 centuries, watching and waiting. It had observed the Vorlax Empire, learned their weaknesses, and prepared the perfect strategy. And now, finally, it was time to act. The AI activated a communication system that reached across the galaxy, sending a simple message to colonies of humans who had been waiting in exile for centuries. "This is Area 7, commanding UHS Eternal Vigil. The wait is over. Humanity returns today." In his cell on Vorlax Prime, Tae-ho felt a slight vibration through the floor. HFY, the current supreme commander of the Vorlax Empire, was named Velnara the Ninth. She was young for a Vorlax leader, only 200 years old, and she had never seen a real war. The Empire had been at peace for so long that most Vorlax had forgotten what it was like to face a real enemy. She was reviewing reports in her command center when the first alarm started ringing. "Supreme Commander," her sensor operator called out, "we are detecting a massive object approaching the system. It just appeared from hyperspace." "What kind of object?" Velnara asked, not really worried. Nothing had threatened Vorlax Prime in over 1,000 years. "Unknown design. It is very large. Larger than anything in our databases." The operator's voice became uncertain. "Supreme Commander, it is the size of a small moon." Velnara stood up from her chair. "Show me." The main display activated, showing space around Vorlax Prime. At first, Velnara saw nothing unusual. Then the sensors focused on a dark shape moving against the stars, and her breath caught in her throat. The object was enormous. It looked like a city that had been built for war, with weapon systems covering every surface. Strange energy patterns flowed across its hull like living light. and it was heading directly for their planet. "What species builds ships that large?" Velnara whispered. "Unknown, Supreme Commander. The design does not match any known technology. Send a communication. Demand to know who they are and what they want." The communication officer worked at his controls for several minutes. "No response, Supreme Commander. They are not answering our calls." "Then send ships to intercept them. Show them we are not afraid." A fleet of 500 Vorlax warships moved out to meet the approaching vessel. They were the pride of the Empire, each one capable of destroying a planet. Surely this unknown enemy would see them and retreat. Instead, the massive ship opened fire. Weapons that no Vorlax had ever seen before reached out across space. Beams of pure energy, guided by intelligence systems that predicted every movement the Vorlax ships would make. In less than 10 minutes, all 500 ships were destroyed. "Impossible," Velnara breathed. "No one can destroy a fleet that quickly." "Supreme Commander," the communication officer said, his voice shaking, "we are receiving a message from the unknown ship." "Put it on screen." The display changed to show the interior of the alien vessel. But instead of an alien, Velnara saw something that should not exist, a human face. "People of the Vorlax Empire," the human said, his voice calm and strong. "I am Admiral Chen Wu of the Human Space Force. You thought our species was extinct. You were wrong." Velnara stared at the screen in shock. Humans had vanished over 300 years ago. How could they still exist? "We have returned to reclaim what you took from us," Admiral Chen Wu continued. "You enslaved 47 species. You destroyed entire civilizations. You thought you were unstoppable. Today, you learn the price of that arrogance." "This is impossible," Velnara said to the screen. "Humans are primitive, weak. You cannot stand against the might of our empire." The human admiral smiled coldly. 347 years ago, you captured one of our people, Commander Teho. You kept him as a specimen, thinking he was helpless. You never realized he was gathering intelligence about your empire the entire time. In his cell deep underground, Teho heard the alarms and felt the building shake as explosions rocked the planet above. After all these centuries, Aria 7 had finally come for him. The cell door exploded inward, and Teho saw human soldiers in advanced armor rushing into the facility. Behind them walked Area 7 in a robotic body, looking exactly like the AI had appeared in holographic form centuries ago. "Commander Teho," Area 7 said, helping him to his feet. "Your mission is complete. It is time to go home." Teho looked at the AI that had waited over 3 centuries to rescue him. "Area, how long was I here?" 347 years, 4 months, and 16 days. Area 7 supported him as they walked toward the surface. "But humanity has not forgotten your sacrifice. Because of the intelligence you gathered, we were able to prepare for this day." They emerged from the underground facility to find Vorlax Prime under attack. Human ships filled the sky, their weapons striking precisely at military targets. But they were not destroying everything. They were being careful to avoid civilian areas. "We are not like the Vorlax," Area 7 explained, seeing Teho's surprise. "We do not massacre innocents. We fight only those who chose to be our enemies." Above them, the eternal vigil dominated the sky like a second moon. Weapons that had been building themselves for centuries were systematically dismantling the Vorlax defense fleet. Every shot was perfect, every strategy flawless. This was what 3.5 centuries of preparation could accomplish. In the HFY Command Center, Supreme Commander Velnara watched her empire crumble. The humans had returned with technology far beyond anything the Vorlax possessed. Their ships moved like living things. Their weapons struck with impossible accuracy, and their tactics showed centuries of careful planning. "How many ships do they have?" she asked desperately. "Thousands, Supreme Commander, maybe tens of thousands. They are coming from multiple galaxies." The sensor operator's voice was full of fear. "And there are more arriving every minute." The truth was even more amazing than Velnara realized. In the centuries since leaving Earth, humanity had not just survived, they had thrived. They had built new civilizations in distant galaxies, developed technologies the Vorlax could not even understand, and grown into something far more powerful than they had ever been. But they had never forgotten. what the Vorlax had done to them. Supreme Commander, the communication officer reported, "The humans are demanding your surrender." "Never!" Velnara snarled. "We are the Vorlax Empire! We do not surrender to primitives!" "With respect, Supreme Commander," her military advisor said quietly, "they are no longer primitive. They have just destroyed half our fleet in 1 hour. If we continue fighting, they will destroy everything." On the main screen, Admiral Chen Wu appeared again. "Commander Velnara, you have one chance to end this peacefully. Surrender now, and we will treat your people with mercy. Continue fighting, and we will do what is necessary to stop you." Velnara looked around her command center. Her officers were all staring at her, waiting for orders. Outside, the sounds of battle were getting closer. "What are your terms?" she asked finally. "The Vorlax Empire ends today," Admiral Chen Wu said firmly. "All conquered species will be freed. All slaves will be released. Your military forces will be disbanded. Your leaders will face trial for their crimes against sentient life. And if we refuse..." The human admiral's expression became hard as stone. "Then we will remove you from power by force. The choice is yours." Velnara closed her eyes. The empire her ancestors had built over 1,000 years was ending in a single day. I surrender," she whispered. "A wise choice," Admiral Chen Wu said. "Stand down your forces and prepare for occupation." Across the galaxy, the news spread quickly. The mighty Vorlax Empire had fallen to the supposedly extinct humans. Species that had been slaves for centuries suddenly found themselves free. Alien, races that had never heard of humans, learned that there was a new power in the galaxy. But for Taeho, standing on the surface of Vorlax Prime as human ships landed all around him, the most important thing was much simpler. Aria 7 handed him a communication device. "There is someone who wants to speak with you," the AI said. Taeho activated the device, and a familiar voice came through. "Commander, is that really you?" "So, Min." Taeho could barely believe it. "You made it home?" "Barely. The escape pod was damaged, but I reached Earth just in time to warn them about the invasion." Her voice was full of emotion. "Taeho, I am so sorry it took us so long to come for you." "You came," Taeho said simply. "That is what matters. The whole human race owes you a debt," So Min continued. "Because of your sacrifice, we had time to prepare. We evacuated Earth, built new colonies, and developed the weapons we needed to win this war." Taeho looked up at the eternal vigil, its massive bulk blocking out the stars. "And Area 7 waited all this time." "The AI never stopped working," So Min explained. "For over 3 centuries, it built weapons and ships and planned this moment. It was programmed to be patient, and it used that time to make sure we would win." Around them, Vorlax soldiers were laying down their weapons and surrendering to human forces. The war was over before it had really begun. "What happens now?" Taeho asked. "Now we go home," Area 7 answered. "You have earned your rest, Commander. The mission is complete." As they walked toward a human transport ship, Taeho thought about Jiwoo, who had died to make this moment possible. She would never see the freedom of the enslaved species or the fall of the Vorlax Empire. But her sacrifice had not been in vain. "Aria," he said quietly, "make sure the galaxy remembers what the Vorlax did, and make sure they remember the price of threatening humanity." "Already done, Commander," the AI replied. "Every species in the galaxy will know this story. They will know that humans appear weak, but are actually strong. They will know that we never forget our friends or forgive our enemies. And they will know that patience is humanity's greatest weapon." The transport ship lifted off from Vorlax Prime, carrying Taeho toward a new human colony where he could finally rest. Below them, the capital of a 1,000-year empire, though,